In this final video, we're going to work through the worksheet that I've provided and show you how to actually plan for applying the reciprocity principle. Because it's not enough to know about the rule. Like all learning in today's society, knowledge has no value. It is in the application of skills that value is realized. So to unlock value of this learning for you and your school, the knowledge is only step one. You now need to practice applying this in everyday situations for you to truly benefit from it. The following worksheet is designed to help you get started with the deliberate application of the rule. So the first part we've got is identifying the problem. Start by brainstorming a range of problems or situations that you would like to improve. Don't be shy. Put down at least 10 areas in your life that are less than perfect. Remember, almost all of the problems we face today can be stripped back to being people problems. In the same way that every successful business is not about a product, it's about solving people's problems. So we take those problems and we put them into our worksheet here to really unpack them. So perhaps in my school, maybe I'm dealing with a lot of truancy at the moment. And perhaps maybe something we're really struggling with is community engagement. Maybe the parents just aren't on board with the value of education. So it's got community. Oops. Or maybe you're thinking, I've been in this role for a long time and it'd be really great if I could look at a new opportunity that's coming up ahead. So perhaps a new job comes into there, etc. You get the idea. Now you go through that list and you're really looking for, at the moment, being deliberate. If you could improve or resolve just one of these problems, which would have the greatest positive effect for you? So for the sake of this example now, I'm going to choose truancy because I know in New Zealand at the moment, post-COVID, that's something that many schools are having to really deal with. So we're going to go through and I'm going to put truancy down in my one problem. This is what I'm really going to plan for now. What we want to do now is go through and list who the various stakeholders are that contribute to the issue. Next to each stakeholder, unpack their role in the issue and identify their needs and contribution to the issue. In other words, what is the behavior that you want from them and what is the behavior they are exhibiting? What is driving the behavior they're exhibiting and stopping the behavior that you want? At the same time, identify their need. What are their needs? Why have they come to you in the first place? What value do they want from you? So in the case of truancy, your key stakeholders are the teachers involved, the parents, the student itself, and the school would be the four main ones. So what role does each stakeholder play here? Well, maybe the teacher has a bad relationship with that student. Maybe for the parent, they just don't value the education. Perhaps for that student, they have no friends in the class. And for the school, it's undermining the rest of the class because it's slowing down the learning process. Then we want to go through and go, what are the needs of those stakeholders? So for the teacher, what needs do they have for this? So the teacher needs to deliver quality learning to justify their job. For the parents, their need is perhaps that their child must be well prepared for working in the workplace. The need for the student is perhaps, aside from their own quality learning, and also just a connection with peers and a better relationship. And the need for the school is to ensure educational consistency and that they are valued by the community. So what is the behavior then that you're trying to foster from each person? So from the teacher, you want them to be warm and engaging and building positive relationships. For the parents, you really want them supporting the child's attendance and believing in the value that the school will offer. For the students, you want them attending class, simple as that. And perhaps I'm going to add here that you also want them engaging positively. And from the school, I would say one of the big expectations here or behaviors we want is consistency of values. So then we move through to what are the drivers for their existing behavior? What's actually leading them to do those things? Maybe the teacher is burnt out. For the parents, we're looking at the drivers that lead to that existing behavior of not valuing it. Perhaps it's working long hours and feeling like they don't have the energy. For the student, maybe the driver of that behavior is maybe there's one particular student in that class that they find particularly challenging or uncomfortable around. And I would say the driver for the school's behaviors will be a community and societal expectation. Oops. Now that we know their needs and we know what's driving the behaviors, we can look at a gift and trying to work out what gift is going to best align with those with the needs of the stakeholder. We're going to go through and just working out, how you could give something to them that would have some value to create this perceptions there, that sense of obligation. So maybe for the teacher, you may give them maybe some professional learning focused on re-energizing back into education. For the parents, trying to get them on board, it's unlikely you're going to be able to alleviate their big challenges, but perhaps if find what's driving the long hours that they're really stuck within, and there may be some way to support that. It could be an affiliate gift, perhaps of some business support. Affiliate business support. Yeah. For the student, it may be just arranging a time for them to make a more positive connection with someone they do get on with the class, and then pairing them with them. Yeah. And for the school, it could be something the teacher gives to leadership to ensure they're consistent with their approach. So perhaps an advance gift, well, maybe just a thank you card for being consistent in the way that the school applies their attendance values. Now, this is a key part, is when will you give them the gift and how will you give it to them? So for the teacher, for example, it's not something I would put into a full staff briefing and make a big public statement for. So I would expect here for school leadership to just perhaps pull the teacher aside and have a little quiet conversation, maybe in an office. So, and when will you give it to them? Perhaps as soon as you're aware of the situation. Um, For the parents, it's likely there'd be some communication right from the outset as you're trying to address this. So what I would probably do is phone the parents or have them come in for a conversation. And either while they are with me at that situation, give them a small gift, the affiliate gift, or even just mail it out to them. As I look at this, I don't really like my pair with someone they get on better with, not because I think that's a great idea. I just don't think it's necessarily reciprocity. So perhaps here what I could do is just a small little handwritten card that said, when they're in a class, from the teacher say, gee, I enjoyed having you here today. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Little thank you card. I think that's more valuable. And then you'd give it to them at the end of the lesson they are attending, and just quietly at the end of the period. Obviously, you wouldn't do it in front of the whole class and make a big deal of it. I'd just say, hey, insert name here. Could we have just a quick little chat before you run away? And just give them a little handwritten card. Look, I really appreciated having you in class again today. I know you've been having some troubles with your attendance. I just wanted to give you a little thank you card from me to say, oh, gosh, it's really great to have you here in the class, and I look forward again to seeing you tomorrow. So we're going to change that to a thank you card. And we're going to, when will you give it to them? At the end of a lesson they attend. How will you give it to them in a one-on-one conversation? And for the school as a stakeholder, so it would probably be more likely the teacher that would be giving something here. Thank you card from the teacher to the senior leadership team, for example, are keeping that consistent support. Again, like the other earlier one, I'd do it quietly, or I'd put it just in a card in their pigeonhole. So it could just be something simple like that, or in just knocking on their door and just saying, hey, have you got 2 minutes? So when we give it to them, so we've now seen how you have identified their need and you've put in place a solution to trial and see if it will work. We've planned out how you will put this in action, and then the trick is to actually act on it, put it into action. And remember that it is best to align your gift or favor with the need of a person. The big questions that we had to go through there is, what will you gift them? And when will you give it to them? How will you give it to them? But finally, to really know how effective your application of the rule is, you need to test your results. And that means gathering data from the outset so that it enables you to seek the best efficiencies possible and know whether your strategy is working or not. If it's not working, go through the earlier steps again and find new solutions or applications of the principle. When you've learned all of the influence principles, you can take it to a whole other level when you combine principles. For now, though, trial different gifts to see if you get better results with certain gift types. You may find different gifts work better with different stakeholders, and that shouldn't surprise you as each stakeholder has different needs, wants, and desires. And that's why it's important to track that data. And I've left my options here in the worksheet to show that of perhaps a control. You need to know what your data is before you apply the principle, and then applying the principle to a sample. So say you've got 10 students in your school who are really struggling with truancy. I would perhaps try this initially with the first 5 and keep the first 5 as a control, measure the success, and then apply it to all once you know whether it's successful or not. Then also you want to track it, because each gift has some kind of cost. Even if it's not a financial cost, there will be a time cost that will associate with any gift. And so you do want to track what's working and what's not to make sure they're the most efficient as possible. That also means at the end of that, having an analysis of that data. And I haven't put this in at the moment because each solution will produce different kinds of data, and each situation, like one school could try something and it may work fantastically because you've got a different community you're working with, to another school who may find that doesn't work. So you want to analyze that data and make sure you reinforce the approaches that create results. In closing, powerfully, reciprocity, along with all of Cialdini's principles of influence, are effective, even when someone on the receiving end knows you are applying the principle, although sometimes that effect can be lessened with that knowledge. The only way that you can use the powerful insights you've gained in this professional learning module is to put it into practice yourself. So what actions will you take today, this week, this month? Remember to be deliberate in your application. Reciprocity is a societally desirable and positive action to use, so long as you use it to deliver value for yourself and your stakeholders. Congratulations on completing the professional learning module on reciprocity. You're now ready to explore the other 6 learning modules on the principles of persuasion.